Hi everyone, thank you very much for stopping by and returning to the old world. Today, we're once again visiting Mordheim for the second game in the local campaign, and a chance for the Blue Company to try and redeem themselves after their pretty epic failure in round 1. So, who would I be up against this time? It is against a warband of Lizardmen. And we once again be playing Weirdstone Hunt. I think it's worth noting at this point that as part of the rules for this campaign, it's been decided that we're only going to do either a basic skirmish or Weirdstone Hunt as the scenarios, with the occasional special game mixed in periodically as group activities. This is because so many of the people are new to the game, including pretty much myself really, having not played for many years, that it's better just to do easy scenarios to ease us in. If and when we do another campaign, we'll bring in more scenarios, probably a greater selection of warbands we can choose from, etc. Anyway, that aside, let's have a talk about the opposition. What am I up against? Well, there's a skink priest, a couple of skink braves. They're armed with short bows, bucklers, and poison. There is a Saurus warrior with sword and shield, couple of skinks with javelin and venom, and 6 blowpipe skinks also with venom. We rolled up 4 Weirdstone tokens for this particular game. Turn 1 saw me going first and making a general advance. The Lizardmen responded in kind. Everyone pretty much out of range for all the weapons, slower advance for the Lizardmen, moving forward and hiding in cover wherever possible. A bit of a thing that would become a theme for this game. Turn 2, I managed to grab 2 of the 4 bits of Weirdstone, my captain and one of my champions, both getting hold of some of the precious loot. My marksmen were able to open up and managed a couple of hits on one of the skinks. However, it was able to shrug off hits from 2 crossbow bolts. Quite a disappointing start. In response, the Lizardmen grabbed the other 2 bits of Weirdstone and continued their slow push / hide as they advanced up the field. One of the skinks bravely was darting forward, managing to get into the blind spots from my crossbowmen, not quite able to cover all of the angles that they had for their advance. Turn 3 saw my 2 characters with the Weirdstone start to pull back and get themselves into cover, not wanting to lose out to an accidental poor combat result or being shot by some sneaky Lizardmen. The meat shields moved forward to cover the retreat of the champion, whilst a swordsman and one of my champions, the one armed with a double-handed sword, covered the retreat of the champion. I managed to knock down one of the skinks that had taken a piece of Weirdstone in the turn before. Fortunately, it wasn't a particularly effective shot, just knocking them to the ground. Turn 3 for the Lizardmen saw more running between broken cover and hiding, grabbing Weirdstone and diving into cover. The Saurus continued its gradual advance up the table, taking cover as it could. There was a couple of blowpipe shots which didn't achieve anything, and also misses from the short bows. The skinks were now in range to return fire. Turn 4 is where it all got quite interesting. My swordsman charged one of the skinks, and one of the meat shields decided to do a diving charge off a building, trying to skewer one of the skinks below. There were 3 crossbow shots, one of which hit a skink brave and knocked it over, but no massive ill effects caused. In combat, my swordsman managed to knock down the skink he was facing, but was unable to deliver a coup de grace. As for the diving charge from the spearman, well, obviously, with a 50% chance of getting it right, He had a 90% chance of getting it wrong and ended up splattered on the floor. Not taken out of action, but knocked down and in a pretty bad way. Lizardman turn 4 saw the Saurus charge into action against my swordsman, and one of the skinks charging the spearman that was on the floor, with the obvious result that he was taken out of action. There was a bit more scuttling and a shot on my left at a crossbowman from a blowpipe, which did bring him down, but didn't cause him to fall off the floor he was standing on. In the combat with the Saurus, it was successful in battering my swordsman to the floor, taking him out of action. And with that, it was all too much for the forces of the Reich, and they bottled on their first attempt at a bottle test. So overall, how did I get on here? It was a bit disappointing. I think a couple of the rolls, had I done a bit more damage early on, it could have been quite a different game. Glad to come out with a couple of bits of Weirdstone at this point. Would have liked to have carried on the fight, though. I think it was very much a very fun and interesting game. And I think I learnt a lot about just making good use of the hidden rule. Something I will bear in mind, particularly if I'm up against opponents where I'm having to close in on gun lines a bit more, to try and really bring my combat guys into range to actually achieve something. With 2 games played and no positive results yet, this will be putting me right at the bottom of the leaderboard, particularly as my warband rating remains quite stubbornly low. However, there is some really good news that's coming out of this, and that is what happened in the post-game sequence. Fortunately, both of the henchmen that were taken out, the meat shield with the spear and my swordsman, both survived. My captain leveled up. He learnt the step aside skill, hopefully giving him a bit more resilience and making me a little less wary of using him in combat. Rolf, my champion, armed with halberd, who had secured a piece of Weirdstone, he got the pit fighter special rule. He's going to be a bit of a beast now when fighting in buildings, which is going to be pretty commonplace. I can be a bit more aggressive with him now, thinking that with the bonuses, he's going to hopefully wreck some opponents' models. Outside of that, the meat shields improved. They got a strength of 4. And as for my marksmen, the Chuckle Brothers, one of them became a character, rolling up on the Lads Got Talent score. So he gets a couple of skills, quick shot and trick shot. He's now going to be hopefully pretty lethal with his crossbow. A couple of shots with no modifiers for firing at something in cover. He has the potential to become truly, truly deadly. As Dave had been promoted, I decided to sell some of the Weirdstone I'd collected. Did get a bit of extra in the post-game sequence, and use it to buy a replacement for the marksman. So that gives me a henchman squad still of 3 armed with crossbows and maces, and a hero armed with crossbow and mace in the form of the newly named Dave Chuckle. So it is going to be onwards and upwards. I'm hopeful that we get a better result next time. I appreciate being, as I'm talking about this on YouTube, I should be just singing of great stories of victory and wiping my opponents off the field, but that sadly doesn't seem to be how it's running. I would say, however, that despite the turns against me in fortune, the games I've played so far in this campaign have been really good fun. They've had some great storytelling elements, and really the encouragement just to do something a little bit delightfully silly. It's not really about winning, it's about making the most of the game itself. And that's something I'm really coming to love about Mordheim. So really looking forward to my next game. It would be nice to get a victory for a change, just to propel myself up the leaderboard. But ultimately, I think as long as the games remain fun, it's going to be a really good thing. I have got a bit of a watchful eye, top of the lead at the moment with 2 wins apiece are 2 Skaven warbands, and they've actually got a warband rating considerably higher than everyone else as well, probably because the relatively low cost of getting bodies on the table. So they're going to be a bit of a challenge, but we'll see when I eventually run into those. There we go. My second game, again a narrow defeat, I'd say, albeit one I actually profited on quite nicely. All that remains for me to say is I hope you've enjoyed this recounting of the game. I hope you've found it fun and interesting, and maybe there's some takeaways for any games you're planning in the future. If you've got anything you want to add or think I should cover off, do let me know in the comments down below, as always. I am returned to the old world. Have a great day.